We feel we upgraded our pitching, our defense, and our offense by making these three trades. Nick Krall. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Riverfront Reds Show. I am Seth Shaner, alongside Chris Garber to muddle through the word salad and the lack of action / interesting moves that were made by your Cincinnati Reds at the trade deadline. And Chris Garber, how are you? And I guess I know some Cleveland Guardians fans pretty closely, and they didn't fire sale, but they definitely sold, even though they were only a game and a half, 2.5 games out of the wild card. I suppose that would be worse than what the Reds have put us through these last few days, but it's more the compounding interest of it all, right? Of us being Reds fans these last several years.
Yeah. I mean, so I was just listening to Nick Krall on the Reds broadcast, and the thing that I took away from it probably is that he seemed just really, really happy to be saying they bought and they added.
I agree.
Like, it wasn't really about who they added or how they were going to help the team or what the plan was or what the expectations were. He was just like, well, I'm just really glad that we were buyers. And
yeah.
He honestly didn't even seem to have like that great of familiarity with what he bought. It's like somebody just, handed him a gift card and he went out and bought a bunch of stuff and he's going to bring it home and unbox it and see what it is and how it fits together.
I can think of two examples, and you actually tweeted something similar earlier, so I already had like this triggered up, but you saying it really got me going here. Two examples in my life where I felt that way about buying something. Number one was when I was a kid and I just didn't have enough to really go and buy the Donruss or the Fleer. So I bought the tops, right? I already had a ton of tops, didn't really need any more, but it's what I could afford. And I was just really happy to have bought something. And I think about being in high school, and when I was in high school, CDs were still really huge. And I just remember if you went to Media Play or you went to Best Buy at that time, the week that a CD came out, it was always cheaper. If you waited a little bit, it's going to go over $20 or around $19 or whatever. But the week it came out, you might get it for 10 or 11. And I just remember I could show you my CD collection as Key Brian Hayes makes another stellar play. I could show you my CD collection of all the bands I have, like their second albums, because I went to the store and the second album came out and it was cheaper than the original album that was actually the quote unquote better album. And so I was just happy to have bought a CD.
Second Counting Crows album.
Yeah. Boy, that first one's a masterpiece. So I do have that. Let's go ahead and kick through these deals a little bit, and we'll go kind of in chronological order. The first deal came on Wednesday, the day before the trade deadline, as the Reds picked up Key Brian Hayes from your Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, they trade within the division, which is interesting. I was joking on Twitter, and someone didn't get my joke because I said I wanted Stephen Kwan because the Reds needed a power hitter. And somebody pointed out to me that he's not really a power hitter. And I said, he's not really anything close to a power hitter. I know that because this is on point. The Reds needed a power bat, and Hayes is not a power bat, So they give up Sammy Stafura. And the big thing we need to talk about, and it came in the quotes that came out about an hour after the trade was announced. Stafura is the 9th prospect rated in the Red system. But they also gave up left-handed reliever Taylor Rogers. All right. Taylor Rogers, he's the most underperforming pitcher I've ever seen with a sub 3 ERA. Like, you couldn't have told me he had a 2-point-something ERA, and I would have never believed you, except for it was right there in the print. He had allowed 11 of 24 runners that he inherited to score, Chris. And so that was the thing. So when I heard or saw Nick Krall's quote about he really included Taylor Rogers because he wanted the money to kind of match up with our budget. That was really important, he said. I want to hear your thoughts on this, and I'm not going to defend Nick Krall, but I've got a little something to say about it.
I mean, it's just that was depressing. Like, I don't care. Taylor Rogers was buried. They weren't going to use him. They were never going to use him again in a high leverage situation.
Right.
So fine, whatever. I don't know what the Pirates want with him.
Well, they already traded him to the Cubs.
Oh, they did. I figured they would try to flip
Yeah.
him. But that was really depressing. Like, we can't take on $7 million in payroll.
It's not even 7. It's like the prorated rate, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever's left of it. We have to dump all this money. And I'm sorry, I'm just watching.
I'm being distracted as well. This is bad.
Spencer Steer do whatever he's doing on this bunt.
Well, no. So remember the Giants gave the Reds money in the first trade when they got Taylor Rogers. So that's why, like, if you looked at the ledger, it said the Reds sent cash considerations. Well, that was the leftover money because I think the Giants paid half his salary basically, and so the Reds were sending the Pirates the money that the Giants gave them that they had left over, like the half of what was left. And so the rationale just like if you got any kind of inflated up by the fact that they actually made a move yesterday and got Ke'Bryan Hayes, when I saw that quote, the needle hit my balloon and just popped it.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, I'm loath to defend Nick Krall, but I guess if you told me that he just didn't want to throw a guy under the bus, a player under the bus, like Taylor Rogers, because there's multiple facts here. Number one, Francona decided in April he couldn't use him in a high leverage situation. So that's been true since then. So if you decided, hey, I don't really want to pay this guy, even though I'm getting half off, I don't want to pay this guy $6 million to be a loogie who's only going to pitch when we're losing by 5 runs. If that's the real reason, I'm not upset at all. And so maybe he just didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings and didn't want to say it out loud. But the thing he said out loud is just really depressing if you're a Reds fan.
Yeah, I mean, he could have just said that's what Pittsburgh wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, but this game is getting out of hand really quickly now. Sam Wall has faced 3 batters and hasn't retired any of them. Hopefully he's done. Too little, too late for the 2023 trade deadline star.
That's right. Hey, the argument was they only made that one move in 23.
Yeah, well,
they made 3 moves this year.
He's very good at throwing them right down the middle tonight.
Yeah,
I mean, the payroll thing is very depressing. I mean, it does seem like, as much as we rag on Krall, it does seem like he got a budget and it can't change. And I don't know if he's only allowed to talk to Bob Castellini once a year, if they roll him out to set the budget and then you can't talk to him again. But, you know, they clearly weren't allowed to add Ke'Bryan Hayes' $7 million for the rest of the year, whatever that, you know, however much that would be net.
When they've only got about a third of the season left.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's absurd.
So the next question, though, becomes, I mean, is it South Stewart just killing the ball in AAA, right? And he's a third baseman. And last week, Tim Daniel and I, after a viewer mail question, were hypothesizing that when they don't make a move, that's what they'll do. They'll bring Stewart and Hector Rodriguez up, and we'll just be fed that.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, Ke'Bryan Hayes comes with a chronic back injury that will never get better. And he hasn't hit since 2023. And he was given a contract based on him on an upslope by the Pirates. And yeah, it was a team-friendly deal because they bought out probably, a year or 2 of his free agency. But now it looks like a terrible deal.
I am that's the part that worries me, but I'm a little bit less worried than I might have been before Jeimer Candelario situation. Because they've proven that they'll flush the money down the toilet if it's discolored. So
but at what point is somebody held accountable?
Well, that's a good question. They asked Krall about Stewart on tonight's broadcast, and he kind of
he sidestepped that quick.
Yeah, he gave one of his normal Krallisms, you know. How did they miss that tag? I'm sorry, listeners. But the Reds are doing things this inning that are just staggering. We're coming to you live from the 8th inning, where a comebacker to Sam Maul somehow resulted in a run
Oh
scoring. He
wow.
made a
Okay.
terrible throw to Stevenson, who made a
Yeah, he
bad
threw to the
throw.
first base side of the back.
Unbelievable.
Well, it might
Defense
be
is
best
Nick
if we turn
Krall.
this off.
So, he kind of jabbered on a little bit about Stewart and said that he doesn't have anything to worry about. He just needs to keep playing or whatever. But the Reds now have a history. They love to draft shortstops, yes, but they also love to take third basemen and just jerk them around. If you go back to Nick Senzel,
Mm-hmm.
and then now Noelvi Marte is
Yeah.
now becoming an outfielder. So I don't know what they're going to do with Sal Stewart. Is he going to be a first baseman? Like, I don't like the thought that Cabrian Hayes is supposed to be there for 5 more years.
Oh my goodness. Not, again, one game and he's probably got the jitters and whatever, but he you shared his stats and he has a 279 on base this year, Chris.
I mean, he can't hit.
They took the offense and they made it worse by that deal.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's worse than what it was when they finally got Espinal out of the lineup.
Right.
I do think that like the floor of the team is better. If the guys they added this week, and we'll get to the other guys, but like if they're going to not have Connor Joe and I don't know, maybe Espinal or Will Benson off this team, and they're better off than they were.
Yeah, I think overall, yes. The interesting thing when you were talking about Sal Stewart and the way Nick Krall kind of gave the word salad of just play hard and you'll be fine. In the pregame show tonight, I was driving home from dinner, and Tommy Thrall asked Terry Francona. I think it was about Martinez moving to the bullpen, which we'll get to that in a moment, and even about Marte playing right field. But he was talking about Martinez moving to the bullpen, and Francona was like, you heard, I guess, over the radio, the reason Francona's so successful with people. And he said, number one, you care about them. And he goes, because that's the job. But he's making a point as if not everybody does this. And we know not everybody does this. But he's like, you sit them down, you talk to them. And he's like, even if you've got to do something that's hard for them or tough on them, he's like, you still keep an open dialogue. And I'm like, I hope somebody, whether it's Nick Krall or somebody else, talked to Stewart yesterday. Because if it was up to Terry Francona, that mindset of the organization would be to be up front with your people. Whereas what I heard from Nick Krall was, gobbledygook, he's going to be fine because he's a good player, but I'm not commenting on where he's going to play on the field if he ever gets here.
Krall is just so bad at this aspect of his job. He always sounds like the new guy on a used car lot. Like he knows he's supposed to be full of it, but he's not even exactly sure how to do that. So he's he knows he's supposed to sell you something that's junk, but he's not even sure. Like, I feel like he needs to keep going and asking his boss, like, what he's supposed to say.
Yeah. It's again, you get what you pay for in so many ways. Okay. So the Reds also dealt for a starter. So that came before the game last night. Then Zach Littell gets traded from the Rays to the Reds. And again, we're building from, we're helping our bullpen by adding to the rotation. Littell does that because Nick Martinez is so willing to move around. And he's basically like, man, you guys are paying me $21.5 million. I'll go wash, Castellini's car if I need to. Martinez is going to the bullpen for now. Versatility. And Littell actually has a history of doing similar things. He comes to Cincinnati with a 3.88 ERA. He did get beat around a little bit by the Reds last Friday, but he had a good 6-inning start. I found that interesting. He pitched 6 innings and then basically was told in the clubhouse, hey, you've been traded to the Reds. I mean, that's up there with Puig getting in a fight with Cleveland after technically he's already been traded.
Yeah.
Or he got in a fight with Pittsburgh and he got traded to Cleveland. Sorry.
Yeah. Littell, I mean, he worries me. I mean, I think I like the thinking behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Is you've kind of got this ticking clock. Shoot, what's his name? Our rookie, Chase Burns.
Chase Burns, yeah, he won't be in the starting.
You've got this ticking clock on his innings count, and so you got to find, try to move him to the bullpen. You have this flexibility with Martinez. So, I mean, if Littell pitches at Martinez's level, the Reds are a lot better out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've just been able to bump, whatever Martinez is going to give him a week, 6, 7 innings a week in the bullpen.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, he's still going to be stretched out a little bit because they'll bring him in. And they could piggyback with Burns if they decide to. But it's interesting with Burns, they haven't been limiting his innings in the starts. He's gone. He's been trusted to go into the 6th inning multiple times. And I actually kind of like the deal. He did give up the most home runs so far in baseball with 26. Although I saw somewhere where like literally if you took away like 3 or 4 games, that number goes all the way down to like 17 or fewer. And the weird thing was George Steinbrenner Field, where the Rays are playing right now, actually allows home runs easier than Great American this year.
Well.
But then they gave the number of, but on the other hand, far more than half of those home runs he gave up were on the road. So it's kind of a scary situation when you think about Great American. But no, I like the move. You need depth. The names of the pitchers who got to pitch at the end of the season in 23 when they were still in it. And even in 21, when they were technically still in it pretty late in the year, those are names. I read a name of somebody who pitched in 21, and I don't even think obscure former Reds guy knows who that guy is.
Yeah.
So you want guys who are still going, and that's why like Andrew Abbott talked all off season and then all into the season. I heard him the other day talk about I need to be stronger in August and September, and learning to do that when you typically only pitch from February to May or early June when you're in college. That's probably the next step for these guys, right?
Yeah. So I don't. Krall had some weird thoughts about Burns' pitch count or innings count.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he's getting up to that point, isn't he? And he's like, well, a lot of his innings in the minor leagues were really low stress.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know if they're like not counting those as completely or. That's kind of what I got out of it. Maybe they're going to try to ride him a little bit longer than maybe some of us thought.
I'm trying to remember if it was Kyle Bodie or somebody else in the organization a few years ago talked about that idea of a minor league inning isn't the same as a major league inning, and so we weight them differently. And but yeah, they've got the numbers on the high stress stuff and all that. I typically would believe that, but what I know for sure is he's only about 20 or so innings from where they would like to probably have him. And so therefore I would say dial it back quite a bit, probably when Hunter Green comes back.
Yeah.
There's a guy dressed up like Hulk Hogan in the stands. That's great. So Brian Van Bell, who they just got this year, and Adam Zirinowski, he was 10 to 15 ranked prospect in the system. So they really only give up 2 real prospects in these deals. And finally, before the deadline, Krall decided he'd go out and buy a hot chocolate in the middle of summer. So he wanted to buy something. He gets Miguel Andujar from the A's in exchange from Kenya Huggins. And I'm convinced that that's a made-up name. Again, you commented on Twitter, the folks that were chiming in saying, no, he's a 300 hitter. He's great. He is good against lefties. And that's what this team has struggled against. So, I guess that's where it is. It doesn't hurt. It's probably better than Connor Joe, right? So, that's fine, but it's not, it's not the big bat you were looking for.
Well, but Krall, so right, and again, I have no real problems getting Andujar. I think he'll be fine. He doesn't provide really any power, which is what they need. But I saw a quote that Nick Krall said he's a middle of the order hitter. And I thought that, No, he better not be. He better not be. This
No.
team has 2 to 3 guys who should be batting in the middle of the order, and they've got 6 guys who should be batting 7th, 8th, or 9th.
Yeah. No, you're right. And Austin Hayes should be batting probably 6 or so, really. In a really good lineup. He would bat 6 or 7. Yeah, I agree with that. And the funny thing is, and I'm not arguing with it because it's produced some results, Noelvi Marte routinely bats 8th or 9th, and it's not as big a sample size, but he's actually having a pretty good year at the plate.
Yeah, he's one of the guys I'm counting as a real hitter, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it is there, and we'll get into it more with the viewer mail a little bit later, but I guess if you were to encapsulate where you are with this team, I mean, it's kind of like going into a movie with not very high expectations and thinking it's okay. I had zero expectations, really, that they would do a big splash or make a big splash. So when they didn't, I guess I'm not as angry, but boy, if I read even our Slack that typically is not as vitriolic as Twitter, it's pretty unhappy.
People are not impressed.
Mm-hmm.
I would give them a C or a C minus, I think, for this trade deadline.
I mean,
and they don't get credit for showing up and participating.
So that's the interesting thing. It's got to be graded with like an understanding of the situation. And I say that like the trade deadline in 2009 when they got Scott Rowland, like that for that year, that trade was probably wouldn't be graded very highly, right? I mean, as far as the 2009 effect of the trade deadline when you probably ought to be selling instead of buying an older veteran. So grading it on that kind of thing, like you look at what the Padres did. The Reds started the Dodgers series a game behind the Padres. And the Padres swept the Mets and pulled to 3 games ahead at that point. And then they went out and traded something like their first, third, fourth, 7th, 8th, 9th, 12th, 13th, and 14th prospect. And by the way, they traded big league players in order to try to round up some better players. Like, you know, they traded off a starter and their closer for what they believe are upgrades. And that's the team directly ahead of the Reds.
Yeah. And they may regret some of those moves.
Sure.
I mean, they definitely overpaid, but they want to win. And that's what it looks like when a team wants to win this season.
Mm-hmm.
And has the confidence that making that effort isn't going to doom them for a decade.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the part about it that ultimately gets me, and I think a lot of people, frustrated the most, is you hear Nick Krall say, well, we can't mortgage the future. Man, buddy, they haven't been mortgaging the future for 15 years and they've still been terrible.
Right.
Like, if they had gone out and won the 2013 National League Championship Series and traded away a bunch of prospects in doing it, well, the last 15 years might have been a little easier to take, the last 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you're just telling me, oh, well, I can't do that because I don't want to have a bad future. Well, you're going to have a bad future no matter what, if the past is any indication.
The real answer is what he actually has said before, and it's that they don't have the budget to really act that way, so they have to develop. And so he's definitely afraid if he trades off the future, quote unquote, then he's going to mortgage a lot more than he wants to, because as long as like the Padres, and I don't know what their ownership's like, their owner passed away there about a year ago, and I know they had private equity involved and things like that. So there are some things there that kind of you wonder how long they're going to have as far as how much they can spend in the coming years. But as long as they act the way they act now, they're always going to be able to buy themselves out of trouble.
Well, I will also tell you that the Padres are drawing $3 million a year now.
That's right. But that didn't start until they added like Manny Machado, Juan Soto, and Tatis Jr. ended up being great. Like all
I mean,
those things happened, and then they started drawing.
they drew 3.3 million last year. I mean, they're averaging this year. They're averaging 42,400 a night.
And that's all that ballpark holds.
In 2018, it was 26,000.
Yep.
They're putting 16,000 more people a night in that stadium because they decided to decide to be good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get what Krall's saying, but I don't think it can be done to build a team entirely from draft picks and signees and outbound trade deadline dumps. I just don't think it can be done. They're not close to doing it that way. They're not close.
Well, and trying to copy a Tampa Bay blueprint or an early aughts Oakland A's blueprint, I mean, it's just not the same.
It's not the same. Everybody else, the Dodgers got smart too. And they print money.
Yeah. I don't understand that side of it. It's when you grade it that way, and the fact that the Reds and Padres were a game apart on Monday. I mean, that's really telling to me. So it's tough. It's tough. I mean, we've gone 26 minutes. We haven't even talked about a game aside from the abomination that's going on right now. They did lose 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers. They were in every game. The game 2 they gave away. The third game featured the at-bat of the season from Spencer Steer. And it's funny because it took the drop foul ball over in left field, and it took the center fielder, Outman, not catching the ball, but actually swatting it back in play when he had a 2-run triple, Spencer Steer did. It was an 11 pitch at bat. It's not hyperbole, although the next day you go down 11-3 after leading 3-0. It's not really hyperbole to say that could turn out to be the at-bat of the year should they make the playoffs.
It was a really good at-bat. It was a really exciting moment, and I think you're right.
I want to go backwards real quick. We were talking about all that with prospects and all that. Like Casey Stern, I never was a huge fan of him, but he had a long time show on the MLB Network radio, on XM satellite radio. He used to say prospects are cool, parades are cooler. And I believe that completely. And listen, there was a stretch, obviously, where the New York Yankees stopped doing it Steinbrenner's way, and they relied heavily on their farm system plus money, and they ended up with the Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams, and that group. But it came down to it eventually, and their farm system was so bad because every year they were trading off prospects in order to get fuel for the playoff run. But I would still take even just one World Series.
They got a handful of trophies over there.
Sure. And now their fans are mad they haven't won since 2009, and I get it. But at the same time, I mean, put yourself in our shoes, right? I mean, my 14-year-old asked me the other day, Dad, when's the last time the Reds won a playoff game? Because he remembers 2020. In that weird playoff that they went down to Atlanta and lost 2 out of 3, the first 2 games. I said, well, it was 2012 because they lost the 1-game play-in game at Pittsburgh in 2013. And he says, oh, wow, that's bad. And he goes, well, when's the last time the Reds won a playoff series? And I said, 1995. And he just gave me this look, and he's like, what? Like, he's known it's his whole life it's not been great. He's 14 and a half years old. But to hear that it was 30 years ago that they won a series, that speaks volumes. It's just we're crying in our tears right now. We're in our beers. I want to bring this up just so we can laugh a little more. Barry Larkin is being torched this week for the comment where he said home runs are rally killers. And again, I get the point. We've seen solo home runs when you're down by 4 runs not really help when you kind of need a rally or something like that. But what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts when you heard that?
Who was it? Who used to say that? Was it Dusty Baker that used to say something similar to that?
I
Or
think he did. I think he really did.
I've
Yep.
heard that before. I mean, it's obviously insane. Like, if you have a rally, if there's an ongoing rally that is alive and could be killed, a home run is going to knock in 2, 3, 4 runs. At which case, who cares if it's over?
Yeah.
Like, mission accomplished. Brian Hayes just hit a home run.
Went down 11-3. Now, listen, I guess I come back to we've talked quite a bit.
Killed the rally. He just killed it. Watch what happens.
Yeah, but it's a 3-run jack when you need multiple runs to get back into it.
Yeah.
Listen, we've talked a lot this year about guys with roles, right? And it started when TJ Friedel just was amazing for the first 3 months of the season. My biggest problem, and I think a lot of baseball through the steroid era and even the launch angle era that was a little shorter, people like Barry Larkin especially are probably just fed up when they see people who are not capable of hitting 25-plus home runs in a season trying to hit a home run every time they come to the plate. And from that standpoint, okay, I see it, because, I don't need Espinal trying to hit a home run when nobody's on or something like that, right? So I get it.
What kicked that off? What got him on that? Because I heard I heard the quote. Sadak was like, "Oh,
It was the first game of the Dodgers series, and the Reds were in the game. But I don't remember why it was brought up. There's been a lot of talk, though, because they haven't been hitting home runs. And then you've got Chris Valaika, which you and I agreed with the team they've assembled. A lot of what Chris Valaika is saying makes sense, but they just haven't been hitting home runs. Ellie De La Cruz hit a home run tonight after 30 games, I think, without a home run. And so, it's one thing to say, hey, we're putting some rallies together, but a lot of times they're scoring 1 or 2 runs total in these little quote unquote rallies. And was it Yamamoto was pitching on the first game of the series, and it's like, I just don't. You're not going to string together very many rallies against him.
How many times this season have you watched the Reds get 2 hits and a walk in an inning, and they get 1 run? Or maybe 2 hits and 2 walks.
Yeah, they string together 3 or 4 things, and it's only a run.
It's like honestly, it feels like the only way they're going to get a crooked number lately has been if the other team makes an error, or like hits a guy, like gives them a free out and a free runner.
Yeah, or even tonight
then they get 2.
Yeah, there was a double after Fraley walked, and he scored from first. So I think Stevenson hit the double, and so he hustled, he made it around the bases. They missed the cutoff man, and that allowed him to score. And it's like, and my grandpa's here. He's 89 years old, and he said walks will haunt, and I'm like, yeah, they will, but that's
extra base hits are necessary.
Yeah, so absolutely. I'm pretty blown away by the comment, but again, I just think it. In a year where we've seen so many games where the Reds score 0, 1, or 2 runs, it's a little exasperating to hear the quote-unquote expert in the booth, and he's far more expert than I am about baseball. Barry Larkin, knows the game, but he also knows the game the way he was brought up to play it, right? So, I heard some Joe Morgan comparisons, right? The way they used to talk about Joe Morgan.
I mean, maybe he's the guy who said it's a rally killer. I mean, did Eric Davis kill a rally when he hit a home run in Game 1 of the 1990 World Series?
I was thinking the same thing, and I was
better for him to hit a single.
The night he said that, I was like, "Oh, we're going to talk about that on the show," and I knew you were coming on with me, and I was actually thinking about that. That I don't know how true it is, but all of us in Reds country thought that series was over right then. As you look back on it, right? As you look back on it, that series was won when Eric Davis hit that home run out the front door against Dave Stewart.
Well, at the moment, I at least thought it wasn't lost.
Well, sure.
In the moment.
Yeah, because you didn't know if you're going to scrape together anything against Dave Stewart.
Yeah.
And then this guy hits it, and that's the one thing about Riverfront that, as much as it's nostalgic and all that for a lot of us, you'd like the way the stands were so high off the ground. It'd almost be like better if you could have seen that ball clear it and go like 12 rows deep, right?
Yeah.
Like, 'cause it was a monster shot, but it just
Yeah.
it landed there under the green seats.
I mean, Larkin, maybe you're giving him too much credit. The way you explained it, there's a point there, which is like, know what kind of hitter you are and be that, and stop trying to be a home run hitter if it's not you. But the problem the problem is guys trying to hit home runs and failing, not people hitting home runs successfully.
Right.
That is not the problem.
No, you don't really want to take the run off the board. And listen, I reserve that kind of thinking for ninth inning down 4 or more runs. If a guy hits a solo home run and nobody's on base now, then, or even if you're down 4 runs and a guy hits a 2-run home run, would you rather have like 4 doubles or,
Yeah, but you can't
a
treat
home
them
run?
that way. You know
You
what I
hit the
mean?
home run and then another guy hits a double and then he gets left out there.
It's just an insane concept. If you ever gave a manager the option, would you like to put the runner back on second, sir? He's never going to do that.
And the funny thing is, Steers' triple that would have been a home run had Outman not swatted it back in. He got knocked in on like the next play. So.
Yeah.
But then it died after that. So it still would have been the same 3 runs. All right. Let's go ahead and I'm actually going to pause here. Let's go inside baseball a little bit on when we upload these to audio for the podcast. Like the idea is you want to find the spot to put the ads, but like I can look at what time we are, but the problem is it's already populated with the first ad. So those are usually 30 to 60 seconds, but could be a little more, a little less. So I have no way of knowing for sure. So I can't really go by time. So sometimes we go by like trying to pause, but then I get to talking to folks like you and I forget to pause. So what I want to do here is I'm going to say we're going to be back after this for some viewer mail, and then we're going to pause. All right. Let's give it a try. We'll be back after this with viewer mail. All right, we're back with viewer mail. So when I insert the ads, maybe that'll be enough.
Does it automatically?
Well, I can put I put the middle of the show ads. There's two little clusters, and I can you try to find where the gap is, like where you're not talking. But a lot of times it ends up either being where maybe you paused in the middle of your own sentence, and then an ad drops, and you were still talking, and it just. It's kind of difficult to calibrate, but we're gonna try that right there and see how that works.
The Reds have gotten like 17 hits in a row right now.
I know. It is now 11-7. All right, I sent out the call for viewer mail this morning, and I kind of said, if you want to wait till after 6, go ahead, but we want to hear from you. And I think a lot of the people who waited till after 6 were basically just in the regular Slack, just kind of banging their heads against the wall. But Skylar Webker, he's the host of Late Night Reds, and he's been fairly positive throughout this. And he brought up an interesting point, and it's something you and I did not talk about. He says, I am sure the Reds have not made the moves everyone hoped for, but I like the contracts on this team because of the impending lockout, which that could come in 2027, I think. So he says this team isn't losing that many guys under control, at least not as many as a lot of other teams. The core is here until 2029 at least. And he said this core. He says Ellie, Steer, McLean, Green, Lodolo, Abbott, Hayes, Burns, Marte, Santillan, Louder, and Friedel. Get some quality outfielders, and this team looks fantastic. Sometimes it is good to zoom out of just this year. And the problem with that logic, of course, is that, we've been told this year after year, as you've pointed out, that you can't mortgage the future because and it wasn't even the Reds. That's the thing that gets me. In 2023, it was the people that were called prospect huggers. I think that's the first year I kind of heard that term. they were the ones that were saying it's not about 2023. Do you think, gun to their head, in 2023 they would have thought 2025 would look like this?
No,
If
because they believe everybody's going to reach their upside potential. They thought, Christian Encarnacion Stram is going to become Aaron Judge.
Yeah, or they thought that all the money saved when King Griffey Jr. was literally the highest paid player on the payroll. And again, you're ahead of me. But it's as if they thought they'd start spending money again, and they really haven't.
Yeah, I think they thought the Reds would get this young core, see what they were going to do, and then add the pieces necessary to put together a legitimate championship team, which they haven't.
I just saw it.
Yeah, Seth and I are on about 6-second delays from each other, and he just caught up to me and seeing Spencer Steer's 3-run home run that somehow this team has come all the way back. Now, that should kill the rally right there.
The rally's over.
Rally's over. I don't know whether they get 8 runs in that inning.
Yeah, they were down 11-3. They gave up 8 to the previous
out. The first 8 runners have scored.
Yeah, I'm gonna need my son to bring me the money gun.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need.
Refill it.
Yeah, well, yeah, he probably already popped it off. Yeah. So, the idea that they, they just, even with that core that Skylar lists, for me, you're going to, first of all, not all those guys are going to be that great anymore. All right, thank you, son. Oh, I think I just popped it. All right, here we go. There, we got the money gun. All right, so especially like relievers and things like that, you can't count on them.
Let's not
that far.
Count our Santion chickens in 20.
Yeah, Santion. Yeah, he's due for.
Rhett Lauder needs to
a little regression. Yeah, and Rhett Lauder needs to prove something. And frankly, you've got me down this road a little bit, as it was Steer that just hit that home run. But Spencer Steer has not necessarily proven that he is a core foundational piece, right? I mean,
he's like a solid, okay player, but
sure,
I think a really good team, he's probably a 4th outfielder or super utility guy.
Yeah, and we fall in love with our own guys, and I like him a lot, but he's not the guy you extend and give a big contract to.
No, I mean, is he as good as Austin Hayes? Just for like a guy who.
That might be a good comp for what the Orioles had.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
in Austin Hayes, yeah. Hey, it's the first ever money gun use on the Riverfront Reds show, so that was pretty exciting. Rex Scott also chimed in, and Skylar actually helped Rex feel a little better at the time. And again, this is 11:13 a.m., so this is, the dread of what was to come was in place, but it wasn't official yet that the Reds really didn't do much else. He says, however, we have the resources to build a strong future and to be serious playoff contender this year. If we make no more moves other than what we did yesterday, which they made the one smaller one, I'm not sure if this team has the ability to snag a playoff spot and make a deep run. How do we compare with the other teams that are going to the playoffs? Also, how does the strength of our remaining schedule compare to theirs? Well, I'm here to tell you, I don't think the schedule strength matters. This team plays up or down to their competition. And so I don't care about schedule strength anymore with the Reds. But what I will say is what we already talked about with the Padres. They made all those moves. And, the Dodgers have Hall of Famers almost throughout their lineup if you end up having to play them in an early series. The thing is, like, if the Reds pitching gets healthy, I would take the starters, right? That was the first out too, Chris.
Well, they put in Espinal. So
yeah, Espinal comes into the game. So like I still like the starting staff if against almost anybody in the National League, don't you? I mean,
oh yeah. I think that's the thing of it. I mean, their pitching can compete. At least starting pitching is as good as anybody's.
I mean,
healthy.
If you went Green, Lodolo, Abbott as your starters, and you've got Martinez and Littell waiting in the wings, because in the playoffs you got quick hook anyway, right? I mean, you pull guys after they give up 2 runs.
Yeah, Brady Singer can go out there and pitch 3 innings and come right off the field for all I care.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that pitching, if they could get in, would actually take them quite far, and it's why I mean, they haven't been swept yet this year, and they're the only team to say that. That's just going to be hilarious if they keep that up. And again, if they win like 83 games, can
Yeah.
you imagine never being swept and only winning 83 games?
The banner's going to look really cool.
Right next to the best record in baseball banner that they
Yep.
can't find.
Yeah. But I think
No.
you answered that question as to what have the other teams done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the other teams were busy. There was, I think the day of trading deadline day, there was 34 trades. So, yeah, everybody else that wants to be a contender decided to make a move that mattered. It feels like it's kind of striking to me to see the Giants be sellers. It's striking to see the Braves not really do anything because they're not in a position to make the playoffs at this point. These are teams that usually do. The Guardians were pretty deep into the playoffs last year. Great regular season, and they're sellers. Twins were sellers. Yeah, it's
Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks, and then the Orioles. What they was it a year or two ago? They had 100 wins, and they've just been awful this year. They sold off a lot of those pieces. The Orioles are funny because they're about 2 or 3 years ahead of the Reds, and so when you see them trade like a Mullins and an O'Hearn and guys like that, it's you know that could be some of these guys that Skyler was counting on being key
That's
role.
exactly right. That's what tells you how quick that window is.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. Okay, so we've got some more on here, and we're going to go through the timeline. Kyle Kapler said, "What are the betting odds that Hayes makes it through that contract?" Well, he's going to get paid all of it because in baseball, it's guaranteed money.
As a Red, as an active member of the Reds roster?
Right. Does he go the Candelario route? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I would have, 6 months ago said, yep, he's going to be on that roster till he decides to retire. But I could see them cutting him.
I could too.
Point,
it's actually not that much money comparatively speaking. But, the funny thing to me is I knew he wasn't as good since that 23 campaign, but not being a Pirates fan, I wasn't aware just how far his bat had fallen. To see what he did last year and this year is really striking to me. And the fact, he only had 2 home runs before tonight too, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, he's already got a home run as a Red. And that's Candelario didn't do much better than that this year either. And he'll settle in on defense. He's a great defender.
He is. I mean, the play he didn't make on that swinging bunt earlier would have been a really nice play.
Yes, yeah, and it was a shoelace away.
Yeah, they only owe him $36 million, I think, is what's left on the contract.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they paid for Candelario, basically.
Sure. So get halfway through next year, and then you're like, okay, whatever.
I think that's right. I mean, I think if he's a complete nightmare, and they've got Sal Stewart, they're not gonna fool with him too long.
It'll come out in the wash, but if there is a long walkout, that's got to be negotiated, right? Whether service time counts.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I've never thought about
that. Was a big deal in 2020. Remember when they only played the 60-game season? And they made sure it was the whole season. That'll be interesting. Do you get them back where they were service time wise? Obviously, you're not paying them for that time, but that'll be very interesting. Dwight Kelly says, "So is the front office a cadre of cowards, or are they inept?" And he gives this example. The Brewers are spending $6 million less this year, have a smaller market, and are doing just fine. The Brewers have a record of 51-30 against the Reds in the last 5 seasons. Additionally, in the last 30 games between the two teams, the Brewers have won 21 per StatMuse. Somebody up there is doing something right. And I'll go back to your point with the Padres. The Brewers, these last 4 or 5 years, have sold a lot of tickets because they're always in contention. Cincinnati fans show up fairly well. Cincinnati fans who were cheering on a playoff contender, and not just a playoff contender, but a playoff team that has done something in the postseason, would show up a lot more. And again, you go back to, money, putting money in, spending money to make money, that kind of thing. And the Brewers make money even though they're a smaller market, and they do. The Cleveland had Tito, but Cleveland also had that front office.
Yeah, I don't think they're a cadre of cowards or whatever the phrase was, but I don't think they're as good as some other front offices are about identifying talent and developing talent. I think on-field management may not have been as good before this year as it could have been, but I think they've got probably more limitations with ownership than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I was ready for the Jim Bowden experience to end when it did, probably even a few years before it did. But I was reminded, Skylar Webker, in a text chain with myself and his co-host Ben Brown earlier today, that he used the word never. The Reds never do this. The Reds never really go all in. They never do this. And I know what he means, but I just was thinking, you know what? 30 years ago, 1995, after a slow start following the strike, he went all in. He got David Wells on July 21st. Gave up C.J. Nitkowski, who ended up being a pretty good reliever and player. He's really good on TV. He's a great analyst. And then on July 31st, I had that backwards. I think the David Wells was the 31st. On July 21st, he traded Deion Sanders, fan favorite, and a couple other guys, John Roper, some other guys. And that's the deal that got him Mark Portugal, Dave Burba, and Darren Lewis. And it totally solidified the rest of the season, those two moves. That was a great team that just ran into the Atlanta buzzsaw come playoff time. And if they would have pulled off something similar, a frontline starter and a move that proved to give depth to the pitching staff and really kind of evened out what they got out of center field compared to what Deion was a little up and down that year. That would change how we feel about this team today if two trades like that were made.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
He got Juan Guzman in 1999. He really helped down the stretch. They were joking about Ke'Bryan Hayes wore his Pirates cleats. It's got the P on the back of one of them, and it's got his number 13 on the back of the other. It's got some gold and there's some yellow with the black and stuff. And Barry was giving him a hard time on the air a little bit, and I was reminded that Juan Guzman was shipped a pair of cleats that had the red and black or whatever on it. And because he came from Baltimore, I believe, and he had orange on his cleats. And the cleats that came were literally like 2 sizes too small. And they said, well, we could spray paint your Baltimore cleats, or you could just wear the Baltimore cleats and just do what you got to do there. You might get fined, whatever. And he goes, no, I got to wear the matching cleats. And he went out there and pitched a game in cleats that were 2 sizes too small. And I'll never forget that story. It's like, dude, we just brought you over here to make like 10 or 11 starts. We need you healthy. We don't need a bunch of bunions or something on those toes. So, no,
it's funny about Larkin. I mean, if you've read your Big 50, you'd know that when Larkin made his Reds debut, he was wearing Pete Rose's cleats.
That's right. Well, but at least they fit.
They did fit, and Pete took them back after the game.
That's right. He's like, I got to auction those off somewhere. All right. Okay. That takes us to Rich. Rich says, once Hayes puts on a Reds uniform, which he has tonight, do you think he will hit above 270, hit 10 more dingers, and drive in 20 to 25 RBIs? If not, do you think that he is capable of giving better hugs than Sammy Stafuro? I don't know what that means.
I don't.
Well, he's got a home run tonight. So
there you go. One down.
One down. And
RBIs down.
Yeah.
I think good. That's not, I mean, I don't know about 10 home runs, but
there's only like 55 games. He just, who knows? Playing for Pittsburgh might not be the most fun thing to do. So, but here's the other question. We have one more viewer mail question, but I'll ask you a question. the first thing I heard or read in print, and then the first things out of his mouth on TV tonight were about how we're already got him in the cage and we're going to work with him because he hits the ball on the ground too much. He has a great exit velocity. We're going to try to work. First of all, there's a story in The Athletic already from earlier this year of Hayes was trying to work with a former Pirates coach that the Pirates had fired. And the Pirates got mad at him because he was trying to get batting tips from a coach that the Pirates had fired. And so if you tell me that nobody has ever tried to coach the guy before, and he's a big leaguer and he's got a full big contract, but nobody ever had the idea that maybe you ought to hit line drives instead of grounders. I mean, Nick Krall, come on.
I actually noticed when the home run swing he had tonight, it is a flat swing.
It is very flat.
He's got a very, like, it was one of those weird ones where, like, the guy has a super flat swing, but the ball, he kind of gets some topspin on it.
You're going to wish that left field wall was a little lower. That's the taller wall of Cincinnati. Yeah, it's very flat, and it's funny to me. This guy's a big leaguer for 4 years or more, right? Nick Krall, it's George Costanza getting in the cage with Danny Carnival or something, and Nick Krall's gonna say, "Well, why don't you try to swing this way a little more?" And then Sadak tried to ask him, "Well, isn't that easier to go from hitting grounders to maybe hitting line drives than if you were hitting pop-ups all the time?" And Nick Krall's like sitting 2 seats over from Barry Larkin, a Hall of Fame baseball player, and he's like, "Well, I'm not going to try to answer a hitting question when he's here." And then Barry just was like covering his eyes, like, "Oh my goodness, okay, we're really going to try to change this guy in the middle of the season,
in the middle of the series."
Come on. All right, James Urban, you're going to round us out here. He says, since we didn't trade a lot of them, how many prospects do we see caught up between now and the end of the year?
Goodness. I mean, it depends on how they go. I mean, if they go in the toilet, maybe you'd see some. I don't know that they're going to call anybody up. I really don't. Maybe they call up Sal Stewart to get a cup of coffee and get a little pinch hitting or something in the September, but I don't know. I don't think a lot. Do you?
No, and I think that's everything's relative. I mean, the roster's not where we would like it to be as far as, hey, I wish we had this guy or that guy. Suarez would look good in there, certainly. Some outfielders, Ozuna, some other outfielders might look good. I wanted Stephen Kwan. He doesn't fit the power hitter, but he puts the ball in play, and I really like him as a player. But despite the fact that they didn't get the guys we wanted, they've got guys right now, and so it's going to be an injury, or it's going to be somebody like if Marte just goes really cold, and then you want to bring up Hector Rodriguez to play right field.
Here's an idea. As we continually see Santiago Espinal come in to face left-hand hitters, left-hand pitching late in the game, I'd let Sal Stewart do that.
Yeah, but that's why they got what's his name, Andujar.
Well, I mean, he might be starting. I'm just like, if you just want someone to come in for, I guess that's right. I mean, he's not
gonna. Most of his bats are going to come against lefties,
so he's going to come in.
So if it wasn't a lefty starter, he's going to be in that Espinal spot.
Tag out for Espinal or Benson. I mean, Fraley or Benson.
Right. That's my thinking.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
And that's where it is. I mean, I think you've effectively booted Connor Joe, and you've effectively made Espinal less prone to hurt you.
You wanted to say less useful, but that wasn't it.
No, I still think, and obviously he won't be. You're not going to put Espinal in for Hayes as a defensive replacement because you got Hayes because he's the best third baseman in baseball, and you've clearly have made that decision. So Espinal plays a little bit here or there to fill in at second, short, and third, I guess. I don't think he's going to play as much outfield anymore.
I hope not.
But also if this and we haven't even talked about Gavin Lux, who hasn't played as well lately either. But if this idea that the outfield is kind of cleaned up a little bit too. You're just not going to see as much. I mean, Marte is an infielder trying to play outfielder in the middle of the season. I get that, but you're not going to see Lux or Espinal out there nearly as much.
No, I don't think so.
Do you think, and I'm not a proponent saying that Will Benson is like the second coming or something, but do you think that this little splice of him playing center field for Friedel while he's out and he's played pretty well and he's hit the ball hard, do you think Francona will finally kind of trust him a little more?
I would hope. I mean, he, as the umpire, strikes Ellie De La Cruz out on an absolutely absurd pitch.
I heard my son yell in the other room too.
If it was me and somebody's got to go when Friedel's back and Andujar's here, I think long and hard about it being Jake Fraley and not Will Benson.
Well,
you got defensive versatility.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think Fraley's that much better of a hitter. He's certainly a little more consistent, but I don't necessarily know that he's a better hitter.
Well, certainly not power, and I'm not even just talking home runs. I think Benson's definitely going to hit the ball off the wall more often and hit the gappers and things like that. Yeah, and again, if Will Benson or Jake Fraley are your, fourth and fifth or fifth and sixth outfielder, then that's fine. I'm not mad about either of them. I guess you're right though. If you can only keep one of them. But going even back to his Cleveland days, Tito just doesn't seem to trust Benson at all. And he's kind of been forced to play him as they don't have another guy who can play center field with Friedel gone. So that's been interesting. But awesome stuff, man. This is the kind of day when we could just talk for another hour and go around. Because honestly, this whole thing, like we've seen Lux, Espinal, and these other guys play so much. And I'm just wondering when and where they're going to play the rest of the way. I think Lux has value if he could get in there, but I don't know where.
I think it's going to have to be DH, really, right?
DH and maybe left field against a righty starter.
Well, I mean, you've already got Fraley and Benson and Friedel as left-handed hitting outfielders who
That's right.
Presumably are ahead of him.
And then you've only got Hayes and Marte now. And then Andujar. Yeah. No, the position flexibility is less needed. It's less needed now. So, and the other thing, and the topic we'll get into later in the season is when do they find a guy to be your DH and be the guy? You know what I mean? Like they've never done that.
That's the problem with the construction of this team. One of the problems is they have like I said earlier, they got a surplus of guys who are like at best number 7 hitters in a lineup. And they can kind of play multiple positions. And so they end up filling the DH spot with a lot of these kind of Gavin Lux and Santiago Espinal and Jake Fraley. And it's like, I don't know that's what they had in mind when they designed the DH.
Well, honestly, it'd be awesome if they had traded for Ke'Bryan Hayes to play better defense than what they've been getting, and if they would have said, you know what, we're still going to go get Suarez, and he's going to be our DH. Yeah. Come on. Nobody even brought that up. Everybody knew it wasn't going to happen. But seriously, like in my mind, you kind of need to start thinking about DH as a real position.
Yeah, and they just never have. Ever since they brought it in, I think they think of it as a spot where a catcher can get some extra at-bats.
Yep.
Where a guy who's dinged up can have a semi-break. And Spencer Steer, you can kind of have him on the roster even though he can't play baseball for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guy, give a guy half a day off like they used to do with Votto. Like, I think that's how they see the position is more of a safety valve than an actual like plus to the batting order.
Yeah, no doubt. That's how it's viewed, or it's forced to be viewed that way because they don't have the money to pay for that extra spot. I mean,
you've got a few teams that have like a marquee player at DH, but most of the time it's because they've got a health issue. that limits them from playing somewhere else.
Well, and I guess, we think about the Frank Thomases and the David Ortiz and Edgar Martinez, but I mean, there had to be guys, and was Dave Parker one of them, that added a year or two to his career because he went to the American League and played for the
Don
Brewers and
Baylor.
the A's, and doesn't have to run around the outfield anymore because he banged his knees up playing on that turf so long. And I don't know. I can't think of who I would want at this point except for what I said about Suarez, but like that, like there's a whole like extra like level you could go to with your roster building.
But the guy you want and the guy that I want is going to cost them $15 million a year, and they're not going to do it.
Minimum. Yeah. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. All right. Well, I tried to end things on a little happier note, and it completely.
The Reds and Braves both scored 8 runs apiece in the 8th inning tonight, and I imagine that we're going to go 8 scoreless innings into extra innings before this game ends now.
I just wish they didn't have that ghost runner. Then I think you'd be exactly right. But
it's very frustrating.
Somebody's going to squeak across a run, including possibly the Braves. Hey, so everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry that I couldn't bring you better news. We're the messengers here. We didn't approve or disapprove of any trades. Nobody consulted us, but we're happy to talk about it and bring it to you. And stick with us. Skylar and Ben will have a great late night Reds talking about, we didn't even talk about the race car track that they're going to be playing in the middle of. There was talk when the Dotsons, who grew up just over the holler from Bristol, the Riverfront might have had a different presence down there had the Dotsons still been in charge. But as it is, we will not be going to Tennessee this weekend and being one of 85,000 plus people in attendance. So thanks for tuning in. Late Night Reds will get you caught up on the weekend's developments, and we really appreciate Chris. I always appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
All right. So long, everyone.